Still kind of going through that also right now. But I just remember last year, I never was in a place where it was so difficult to smile. Because all of a sudden, after 10 or 11 years, I couldn't feel God in the same way that I've always felt Him before. That ever since I experienced that heartache and that heartbreak, God decided to tone down a bit. But the beautiful thing is, looking back at that now, it's ironic that even though He was so quiet, I had never prayed so hard in my life. And I had never prayed so much in my life. Because it's in that silence, brothers and sisters, that we realize just how much we need God. And I think what was so hard was not knowing what was going to happen next. Excuse me. For the past year and a half, I felt called by God to really pray about my vocation. And it wasn't anything I really considered or thought about really before. I'd heard the word and everything, but I never really, I never really thought to pray and think about it. And I think just grappling with that idea, or grappling with that concept of what you'd be doing for the rest of your life, it really made me angry at first. Because all of a sudden I felt like my life was no longer in my hands. My life was no longer in my control. I couldn't control things anymore. And I had to just keep going along the path blindly. And I had never known that before, brothers and sisters. I had never known not knowing what lied ahead of me. But I think now, after a year and a half, what I've learned and what I've come to understand is that it doesn't matter, like your vocation, whether it's priesthood or if it's married life, it will always lead to God. God will always be the destination, and I keep trying to remind myself that that's where I'm headed to. And I know, people always say that when God, starts to call you and when God starts to speak to you, He really rips at your heart until there's nothing left but just you and Him alone. And I believe that, strongly where I stand right now, I believe that's exactly where I am. Is that God has really allowed Himself to be solely in my heart and just let Him lead. And it's kind of funny, really put me on the spot, but I guess he sort of affirmed that maybe I should mention this. I really ask for your prayers, because, I'm praying about, the next chapter of my life, and, part of that is praying about being a full-time worker for our community. And so I just really ask your prayers, to really understand and see clearly if this is what God is calling you to. And I think in realizing how strong our God is, it's also realizing how beautiful His promise is for us in the end. So I really hope and pray that as you pray for me, I pray for you too, that we all remain true to God's promise, and may God be praised.